With that, I'd like to introduce Steve Latham. Steve is from Flashtalking. He's got a very interesting case to talk about with Monarch Airlines, and I think you'll find it inspiring. Steve?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. This is an exciting opportunity to talk about breakthrough technologies and innovations and approaches, and combining really three, I think, what I would call must-have capabilities these days, which is cookieless tracking, cross-device, and attribution, and using those all to solve a really serious business problem. So real quickly, the players involved: Flashtalking's global data-driven ad platform, Tapad, one of the pioneers in cross-device data, and Monarch Airlines out of the UK. So let's start with the customer journey, which is becoming increasingly complex, not just multi-channel, but multi-platform these days, understanding all of the interactions that precede a conversion, online or offline, and how those interactions influence the outcome. It's always been the goal of marketers, and it's getting increasingly difficult, especially as with the fragmentation of devices and the increasing challenge of getting good data about your customers. What this really does is begs the need for a better way to a data-driven approach to understanding how to allocate fractional credit, or what we call fractional attribution. Just a quick overview of Primer on multi-touch. Really the key things that I bolded here is about having unified data and a really good comprehensive history of engagement for each customer. It's then using validated machine learning models to determine the relative contribution of each of the interactions and driving that desired result. And then it's having, again, a logical, data-driven approach to giving fractional credit to each of those interactions, and then using those insights to optimize spend, with that last one being the most important bullet point here. Without acting, then there's no gains, and that's, at the end of the day, analytics is a means to an end. Obviously, with better data, better approach, better insights, you get more performance from your media budget. Sounds pretty simple. In reality, it's, I think we all found it's quite challenging. Now let's talk about some of the underpinning dependencies here, one of which is that customer journey and really understanding it. So mobile is becoming an increasingly significant part of our media plans these days. And as we know, everybody knows that cookie as a tracking mechanism for mobile is a pretty limited capability with iOS blocking cookies. But it's not just mobile, it's also the desktop Safari, desktop Firefox. It's increasing reliance on cookie deletion, cookie rejection. And as we're seeing this becoming a bigger problem, it creates bigger holes in our customer journey and that data we're analyzing. So if you take a mobile journey, think of somebody who's exposed on a mobile device or a tablet, maybe 3 or 4 display ads that someone paid really good money, high CPMs to engage them. Then when they're ready to take action, they click on go to a search and come through Google and convert. So with traditional ad platform, ad serving, cookie-based tracking, all the credit's going to flow to our friends at Google. Now, with cookieless tracking, using probabilistic matching to look at not just relying on IDFAs, but actually looking at signatures of devices and using probabilistic matching to identify unique devices, we can really change the game and see things in a different way. And by now we can give credit across all those touch points that precede it. So getting good data is really the first key to advanced analytics and better optimization these days. Now let's talk about cross-device, because this is where it gets even more complex. If you're relying on cookies for your mobile, and then that same user is also engaged on desktop, let's say that they're also being exposed again to some pretty premium, whether it's pre-roll video or different dynamic strategies you're trying to reach and engage your customers. Again, without ability to stitch that together, you're just going to give credit to that last touch and the conversion path. Now, what we did in this case, we brought in the Tapad device graph. In the particular case state I'll show you is for the UK, but it's pretty ubiquitous these days everywhere. And we're able to stitch together all of the interactions for each customer journey, so you can see that cross-platform view of customer engagement. And now with that better data set, the models can see all the touch points, interactions, provide more insightful outputs that are going to ultimately help you, again, achieve better returns from your investment. So let's talk about a case study, because I think nothing I've shown you here probably is breakthrough in the concepts. What's really the breakthrough is bringing all them together in an effective way to achieve a business goal. And it's really answering two key questions for Monarch Airlines. First of which is, what is the relative contribution of all their media buys, so attribution. But secondly, what is that cross-device impact and cross-platform engagement? How does that affect their business? They had a particular situation where they had, as I'll show you at the end, really high traffic to their mobile responsive site, but very low conversion rates. Conversely, the desktop had really high conversion rates, but lower traffic rates. So they had a thesis that people are searching mobile, converting desktop, but no data to support it. So that was another goal going into this, was try to help answer that key question. Some of the KPIs from this, and we're pretty transparent about everything, so I think this is hopefully will be very insightful for you, is understanding that we saw almost 40% of the visitor IDs to the site were rejecting cookies. Another way of thinking about it is almost 600,000 of every million users were actually unique users, and those incremental 380,000, 400,000 visitors were redundant cookies issued to people who'd already been to the site. They're part of that initial subset. So it really helped close that gap in the hole and unify at the user level. We then overlaid the device graph. We found that we achieved over a 40% match rate. This was the UK, and this is last fall when the device graph was less robust. Today we're getting over 60% match rate for that same client, same period, or same geographic footprint. But we were really happy with that because it gave us more than significant, or more than a representative sample to provide some significant insights. Then when we look at converters in the past, we found almost 60%, or just over 60%, actually engaged on multiple devices or IDs. In this case, the average user converted on 2.0 IDs in their engagement history. Again, so we start to see that mobile to desktop journey start to visualize. And by unifying the data and now giving credit to all those impressions that were previously excluded, we're able to identify that a lot of media that was previously being uncounted in the analysis now is getting a lot of credit. And conversely, there's a lot of ads that did not get as much credit. So even though there's an overall lift, some vendors and publishers and strategies actually saw fewer attributed conversions and lower ROI, because now we're able to see everything that was upper funnel that was assisting them that previously we couldn't see before. Another really key insight, which was not media related, was that we found that 30% of their basically desktop converters had previously searched on their mobile site. So not only by tagging all of the ads, but also the websites themselves with the cookieless tracking and the cross-device, we're able to stitch all this together and answer some really important questions. The key takeaway here is if you've tried to do cross-device attribution without cookieless tracking, it's really difficult. The best device graphs in the world don't help you when you don't have a matching key, and if you're using cookie IDs to try to stitch all that together. So we found that was really critical. A few other results here, and this client allowed us to share this with everybody. These are probably somewhat industry standard numbers. But what we found is after giving fractional credit to the media, display saw a significant lift, but also in this case, paid search saw a pretty good lift as well. What did not fare so well, obviously, is organic search. In this case, actually, affiliates saw a pretty big decrease as well because they were being assisted by the display media. And then lastly, as I mentioned, understanding the cross-platform interaction. This is the traffic on the left and then the conversion rates on the far right. You can see that the orange desktop had significant traffic but very low conversion rates, whereas, the mobile, the desktop actually had a 4 times higher conversion rate. And so with these insights, the brand is also able to justify a significant investment in their mobile website. They actually used this data to the board to get more investment to build out their site. And with that, I'm in the Q&A session, so any questions?
Hi. Display had quite considerable uplift, but how do you know those impressions were actually seen?
So they were using viewability from the ad platform, so we excluded the non-viewable ads from the data set that gets modeled, per the MRC guidelines.
Yeah, one over there.
Good morning. Can you give us an idea of how long you were looking at the path to purchase for the conversion and the attribution back to the display campaign or the
Sure.
metrics?
So when it comes to looking at the look-back window, how far, we're advocates of including more data, not less. We see sometimes brands will put an artificially short look-back window, which we think sometimes is limiting. And just because you have impressions that are 30, 40 days old doesn't mean they get a lot of credit in the models, but we'd rather err to the side of having the data in there than letting the models determine to what extent upper funnel ads 15 days ago, 20 days ago, 30 days ago influence the conversion. And it's going to vary based on the customer, their planning cycle, how long they're doing research before they buy. This is not a huge ticket item. Obviously, airline tickets, people are sometimes anywhere from 1 day to 3 weeks. For larger, more considered purchases, we typically see much longer paths, so we'll include those, typically a longer look-back window in those cases.
Time for one more.
Hi. I know Monarch, as you pointed out, done a lot of digital advertising, but they also do a huge amount of TV advertising. So has that been factored in, or can that be factored in?
Yeah, it's a great question. In this case, we're looking at digital in the context of everything that's taking place offline. So you seek to normalize for that as much as you can, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of other macro factors that if we include just the TV, but not all the other macros, it gets difficult. So really, this is really intended to provide bottom-up signals for optimizing to then coincide with the marketing mix. Thank you very much.